This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, folks. The time being 4:45, I'd like to call the meeting of December 5th, 2024 to order. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to make a motion to accept a couple of donations to the Christmas parade, Lakes Region Media, New Hampshire, which is the FM 105 and 104.9 The Hawk. Make a motion to accept their donation.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We're going to go right into to the minutes. 11:7 were corrected.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of November 7th, 2024 as presented.
Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The second was by Catherine Dawson, Selectmen.
My mic wasn't on.
Oh, okay. Thank you, John. The 11:21 minutes.
On page 2, third paragraph down, Selectman Dawson asked if they knew how to install a gate of that size. It's not exactly what I asked him. It's close enough. I basically reminded them a gate of that size is going to sag and there's going to be a lot of maintenance to it.
Correct.
And if they would be maintaining it. I don't know if it's important enough to make it exact. But it's
Well, the
kind of
maintaining,
insulting to ask them if they knew how to install a gate. They install telephone poles, electrical poles. You know how to install a gate? The only reason I brought it out.
Well, it might be important to have that in there because if it does fail, they did state that they would maintain it.
Well, that's why I brought it up, yeah.
it does say if,
It does say about maintaining it.
Well, specifically, the gate's going to sag. The conversation was the gate of that size is definitely going to sag. Frost is going to lift it.
so the gate itself sagging. I get it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be important. Okay. So would they maintain the gate?
And on page 3, under the town administrator's report, it says the heat is working behind the stage. I think it should say the heat appears to be, because it really hasn't had the test. And I was up there, I don't know, sometime in the past 10 days. And it's definitely cooler than it is down here. I think it has to do with, it might have to do with just the cabinets up against the radiator.
Yep. I agree with you.
But before we say the heat is working behind the stage, I'd hate to find out later that it wasn't. And now we're going to go back on it. So if it could just say the heat appears to be working behind the stage.
Did somebody go test the registers? See if
We
they,
did.
I
It's one-
touched them when I was up there, but they weren't on. They weren't cold though.
Oh.
It just means it wasn't calling for heat up there.
I had tested it that night.
Yeah.
And were they hot?
Yes.
Okay, but like I said, when
Yeah,
I
it
was
turned
up
up.
there,
Yeah.
they weren't cold, but they weren't on. So it just means they weren't calling for heat. And again, it could be all those filing cabinets are right up
They're
against
blocking it.
oh, yeah.
the radiator that is supposed to radiate heat.
So on the page 4 in the second paragraph, Kim Pearson met with Chris Can and can report that there's heat in the stage office coming from the new boiler.
So there is heat. It's whether it's,
Just want to leave that
There-
right there.
Well, so in the past, there was heat every so often. And that was probably the zone thing, but they seem to have fixed the zone. I'm just saying.
Okay.
It hasn't had the test of a winter yet. Tomorrow's probably
I
the
was gonna
big
say,
test.
that'll be the test.
All right, we'll send that back. Send the minutes back then. Everybody
so
okay
how-
with those?
I'm just asking, are we going to change the wording of that?
Don't have to. It's not,
Okay,
I mean,
so it's no,
it's not a big deal.
but we have
Just-
to keep in mind that we still have to.
This
test it.
conversation in these minutes would be enough to cover us if we find out it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want it changed on the previous page, Catherine?
Now, like I said, this conversation is enough
Okay.
to cover us if we find out we've got to do more.
All right. Guess
Thank
we'll
you,
send it
though.
back.
So the previous page, you are okay?
Yeah, let the whole heat thing go.
Okay, so then the only change that we really want to do is the gate. Okay,
I think
Yeah.
that's important.
okay. Okay. Moving right along, the Selectmen's report. John, you're up.
Well,
this
am I
week.
next? I was first last week.
It's Joe, Madam Chair.
Oh, I have John on my list.
On December 5th, I was last week. Mine says Joe.
That
Could
is,
have been done with my part by now.
Go ahead, Joe.
The Packers and the
have a
Lions
new
are
list?
playing, you know.
Scott,
found
if
out
you
what
have a
that
new
was.
list?
yeah, actually, it doesn't match what the agenda says. So
You want me to?
Oh, hold on a minute. Scott says it doesn't match what the agenda says.
Well, if I'm first, I'll yield to Joe.
I have two things to try to juggle here. Okay. All right, Joe, go ahead.
Last night was budget committee. We did Lockmere Village and the sewer commission. It was a short meeting. We have a regional co-op meeting coming up on the 11th at the Bow Town Hall at 1 p.m. Election of officers and public hearing on the budget. And the people that have been not renting the space that we own, but they've had an option to buy on the land that is owned down there by the COA.
Mm-hmm.
They want to extend again. So they pay us $10,000 a month. And we hold on to it. We get to keep it if they back out of the deal, or it just goes toward the property.
Okay.
We'll be voting on that. I would think we would be a yes,
Mhm.
because, not that the town of Tilton will realize any money in the very shortest of terms, but that's just money that will go back to us ultimately.
Right.
And that is my report for the week.
All right.
Oh, next week, budget committee of the department heads.
Oh, okay.
So tune in for that one. All right. I defer to John or whoever.
Next on the list is Catherine.
There you go.
I noticed coming up tonight, I've seen it before, but didn't think about it. I forget what it's called, the heart jumpstart machine,
Yes,
defibrillator,
AED.
whatever it is. Do we have people in town hall trained to use that?
I am. I know from
Amy.
the senior center, and Amy is.
Right.
I have to renew mine soon.
You should be trained in it.
Mine expired.
Oh, yours is fine.
More the better.
The
Yeah.
more the better.
Yeah, everybody should be. Can you just
Yeah.
you can just hook up with the fire department.
Yeah,
right? And have them-
actually, they volunteered to come in and do a
Yeah.
training for us.
Probably
So,
everybody should.
They did
Yep.
training about, in 22, they did training for us.
And they did one at the senior center too, so they probably need to do one.
They do CPR as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
That's a good thing. You should do CPR and AED at the same time.
They did.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's a good point, Catherine.
Well, I got to looking at it. I just had a friend that had a heart attack last
Yeah.
week, and I thought, wow. Okay, is it any good if you don't know how to use it?
Right.
Can you hurt somebody if you don't know how to
Yeah,
use
you
it?
can't hurt somebody. You
Right.
cannot. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And literally, you just turn it on,
And
you
listen
press
to
the
it.
power button, and it will tell you exactly what
Yep.
to do.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
The other is a question. We appointed Doug Wade to the zoning board, but I noticed at the last zoning board meeting, he was not there. Has he been notified that he's a
Yes.
member? And is he on the email list?
Yes.
Send it to me. I'll make sure it's on there.
Well, I've called.
He seemed,
It's
it's
not-
just that he seemed very anxious to serve. So
Yeah.
I was surprised that he wasn't there.
I've called twice. He's not picked his packet up.
Has he been sworn in?
I have no idea.
I do not
Catherine,
believe he came
I've-
in to get sworn in.
I've called twice.
Isn't that odd?
Yeah. I was going to mention that to you before the meeting, was what to do. I was going to ask
Maybe
the
we
board.
should
I have
send
that
him
on my list.
Send him a letter.
I'll reach out to him
Yeah,
tomorrow.
just if he's
Yep.
not interested, it means we've got to look further. But
Right.
he just
Yep.
seems so exuberant about it. You're getting price to remodel for offices.
Got that for you tonight.
So it occurred to me, we have a storage area in that far back corner on the stage. It is a mess. There's even a bathroom in it.
Really? I didn't know that.
And there's no light. The light doesn't work. I'm thinking if we at least had a light in there, that could at least be storage for maybe some file cabinets.
Yeah.
Get them out of there into there.
Out of
But
here.
it could be a
Yeah.
useful space instead of what it is, which
Yeah.
again, it's a mess. And when I was in here last, the boxes were still up in the corner.
Yeah.
We should fold them up and get them down to town garage now that we're recycling
Yeah.
cardboard. The Christmas parade is Saturday. I believe the parade starts 4:30-ish with Santa in the pavilion after and fireworks. And while I'm on to that, I want to be sure and thank Public Works. I thought the lights, especially this year, looked absolutely spectacular in Riverfront.
Yeah.
And they did it.
Yeah. They do look.
Park
They do
commissioners
look wonderful.
didn't. Usually the Ag Center helps, but this was all Public Works. They added some little flourishing touches that I thought were quite exceptional. So big thank you to Public Works. And I'm all set. Thank you.
work on your floats, folks. I'm one of your judges. So make sure your floats are good.
John, now you're up.
I don't have too much. I've read your report and I'm going to let you
Run
and
with it.
stuff you had planned on doing. One of the things, so there were some homeless people that were behind the Honda and Morrison Ave. The fire department had to show up and extinguish a fire and climb over the fences, as well as police. I'm a little concerned with everything out there and the amount of brush and all that about that. So if the question I have is if somebody lights a fire without a permit, do we do anything to them for that? I think that, if they're going to start having fires, we need to really be cautious because things can get out of control down there and you can't access it very easy. So if, we should get the names of the people and
Yeah.
if there is a penalty for it,
Charge them, right?
charge them with it.
The chief, John, just so you know, I got that call, and the chief sent his crew down. Then I believe it was them that called the fire department to extinguish it. They have now moved. They have now moved to the railroad tracks in the area of Salmon Falls, run just a little south or west of it. Because I had to call yesterday. They had started a fire there as well. So they weren't, to my knowledge, on the second one, they weren't there. But there is kindling without a permit that they can write them a summons for. It's not a full custody arrest, I don't believe,
Yeah.
but
No.
they can charge them. And the chief and his staff have been on it. It's specifically to people that we know or are known to them, I should say.
I think we should, issue whatever tickets or whatever you
Needs to be
give
done.
somebody for kindling without fire.
Yeah.
It's a difficult area to access
Yeah.
and there's a lot of grass and brush and
Boy.
hill. And there's some very old trees down there and everything. It could,
Yep.
and houses.
Yep.
It's of concern.
That, to add on to that, John, there are resources, and I know that organizations like the CAT program and stuff their street outreach teams are actually encouraging them not to use fires, and they're giving them supplies to keep them warm without using
Without
open
kindling
flame
fires.
fires. Yeah. So there are resources out there for that.
Is that private property? I think is that
The
Road corridor.
the
from
railroad.
there to the river is Jocelyn?
I think that's Jocelyn's property, right?
I don't know
Yeah.
if they're aware of that people
Yeah.
are kindling fires on their property, but
Yeah. I
mean,
did
that-
see Chris come in yesterday to the town hall, but I think he was probably paying his taxes. So,
Right.
but that was Abe's folks are on it.
so if Jocelyn should know, and if they want to issue a warning for trespass,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
then it can proceed from there.
Yep.
That's all I have now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Eric.
Christmas parade is coming up, and then the only other thing I has as a follow up to the last meeting, I'm gonna meeting with Mr. Wolf on Saturday, and I think once I do that, then I can at the next meeting talk about with what we're gonna, I guess, decide with EverSource and stuff. Be interested to see.
With the survey.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a survey.
There
as
was a
well.
survey done yesterday.
Yeah. So
Be interesting to see what the result is of that survey.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Does any of it involve our property?
All of it.
Yeah.
in town property.
The gate, where the
Yeah.
gate was placed is where they were going to survey to see where the gate was going to be relocated, because the gate in the uh, stone wall was removed, and that was town property.
So, and what I don't understand is where Mr. Wolf is involved in this. That's
Because
my
it
concern.
was his access way going down. It was his easement.
Yeah, but it was also it also set part of his boundary line, I think,
Right.
too. So,
Yeah, that
Correct.
corner post.
Oh,
So that's why I'm gonna go-
He is part of that.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so that's why I'm gonna
Property
go
owner.
meet with him.
A
The
butter?
stone the stone that created the cornerstone, the pin
Yep.
that was in his corner, was removed.
And it was moved,
As
like,
As well as the stone wall.
yeah,
correct.
it was moved like 45 feet
No, I
or something
understand
like
better.
that.
Thanks.
So, yeah,
Anything else?
nope, that's it.
Okay, so let's talk about the parade. Shane cannot do the large truck because of precipitation expecting on Friday, and breaking it down and then putting it back up and decorating it and so on and so forth. So it's a smaller truck. How many people are going on in the parade on Saturday? Selectmen? Okay, I am not able to make it personally. With that, the three of you, this will be my first year of 17. I am also unable to go out and buy the candy. Do you hear me on this one?
Wait,
Wow.
Amy has the credit card, or Tim. So one of you need to go out and get. Do you have anybody coming with you? Little kiddos that want to come with you?
I don't know if Hallie can, because she has a basketball game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she'll be done by then.
So anyway, I've left detailed instructions with Amy to go out, and we have some leftover candies from the Halloween. We can mix it. We need just about 7 or 8 bags to fill the bags that we have downstairs. Somebody needs to buy the bags, fill the bags, and then just bring them to the meeting place. Simple. I've done it for I don't know how many years.
all of them, as
Yep,
far as I know.
every one of them. So I just can't do it this year. I just physically can't do it. So, and I will cheer you on in front downtown, but I'm just not going to get up on the truck.
I have some experience with candy, and I'd be happy
To go out
take care of that.
and carry that torch.
I can pursue that with Amy.
Yep,
All right.
that'd be good. That'd be great. And I will bring in the bags tomorrow, and we'll line them up, and we can all help you put that
Right.
together.
I can help you out.
Just one more thing on the parade. I didn't know if there's any type of sound system, because a lot of times it's pretty quiet up when we come through there's no Christmas songs or anything like that.
Yeah.
That adds to it.
That would be,
And
yeah, that'd be kind of nice, wouldn't it?
A speaker or something. I don't know how.
Yeah, I would almost think that
I
one of those
have-
Bluetooth.
I have a Bluetooth speaker that we could connect.
Is a big.
Santa's float has music. Of course, that's all the way at the back.
Yeah. So we come through and it's like this.
It's just quiet. Yeah.
The whole front end.
The whole
In-
front end is just quiet. Like,
I mean, it's a decent sized one. I
I've
mean,
got one of those torpedoes.
A boom
because
box?
They're pretty loud.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure that
a
would
boom
work.
box.
Talk to Billy and see about putting it on his porch. That's
Did-
kind of
Does a
midway.
police car lead the parade? Get a speaker on it?
Selectmen lead the parade.
Yeah.
Yeah, the selectmen lead the parade.
I mean, I can put the boombox
You
on the
could have
roof
a-
of the.
There you
I
go.
have a
Truck.
Bose speaker
A
that's
car
about
with a
this big,
speaker, a
Yeah.
PA system or
But-
something
Right.
might be
I
in
mean, I
there
don't know how
in the
loud it
parade
will
somehow,
be.
right?
Right.
I don't see why it wouldn't be loud enough.
Yeah.
Fred Caruso usually rides in the parade. He's got Christmas
Hmm.
music.
It's
Yeah.
just that the whole front part, it's like we're just
Mm.
driving through and
Well, I can bring it and we can, before the parade starts, we can crank it up.
Get your playlist all set up.
Yeah. You know, we can do that.
How's
Right
that?
I'm trying to think if I have a bigger
If you-
one than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a decent, it's loud. I mean,
Yeah.
of course I haven't really cranked it up and.
I might
That's it.
suggest no Led Zeppelin
Yeah, no.
For Christmas?
for Christmas.
Led
Right.
Zeppelin?
No,
Oh,
no,
that
no.
really brings back
Yeah,
memories.
no Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. I was
They don't have
that's
Christmas.
It's not very
They make
holiday spirit.
July.
Yeah.
a little
It is
Dylan
50th
maybe.
anniversary of Stairway to Heaven.
Lions and Packers.
Yes.
All right. Next one might be a little bit of a challenge, but I'm going to ask anyway. Just for a second, may I switch my hat for just a second? About 1 o'clock to about maybe 3:30, 4, maybe 3:30, from that window right behind Catherine, anybody that, if I'm sitting at the desk in the office, it's just blinding light.
Yeah.
Just an absolute blinding light. You
It's coming
cannot,
from that window.
from that window, straight ahead of me, just absolutely straight ahead of me.
It's got a little
Yep.
curtain rod thing.
No, yeah, but
Throw a curtain rod up there.
It's the tops.
if
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
It's got curtain rod hooks on the top, right?
See how this window is with the shade?
what I was suggest,
Yeah, those types of shades.
what I thought I would suggest is perhaps maybe just do some of that,
Black film.
Blackout?
the film, yeah,
Yeah, the
film. The film,
Yeah, the tint.
because
tint.
I think that works really efficiently, but we tried closing the door, but then people think
You're closed.
we're closed. And it's because it's so blinding and people come and standing in the door and they don't see that we're trying to go like this and we can't see the face and we can't see who we're talking to or anything, but it's not pleasant. And one time there was somebody that was extremely angry, and trust me, it was very scary because this person you couldn't see, never mind know who it was, and it very quickly calmed down. It wasn't an issue, but it became scary for a few minutes because we couldn't see who that person was. It was blinding. So I really would love that one window if we could. And it's going to be a chore because I don't know how to get up there to do that.
Public Works should do it. There used to
Big
be a
ladder.
giant ladder under the
There.
stage.
It's still there.
It's a little frightening, but the huge,
So-
they used to use it to change the lights. But if we're gonna do that, we should
I
do
was
all
just going to
three of
say,
these.
I'd just do all three.
All three
As
of
if
them.
we're going to do it,
Yeah.
just do all three with some, film that does it so that it doesn't take away from the aesthetics of the window, but it does the light darkening.
You're gonna put a sunglass on the window.
Well, I was going to say,
Exactly.
because that window behind John, when
It-
you're sitting at that
Right.
Oh,
table,
God.
you
Yeah.
can't
Yep.
see a thing in the summertime.
Right.
But if you recall, the former town administrator had recommended these styrofoam inserts and to have them, painted with, by kids for local, like the statues and other things within Tilton. That was one of the ideas that was proposed at one point. But I think if you do the ones that are really problematic, it would have to be really heavy.
Yeah, it would have to be limo tint type.
Yeah.
Why? So can I just ask why we don't just put shades like all?
Because you still get the sun, you still get the light.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's
Film
just
is
dim.
not going to
That shade?
alleviate the light.
You're just going
Still
to
gotta
tone it
come in.
down from being.
Right.
It doesn't blind you.
You don't think that the shade would work?
Mm.
Shade works for this one because this is a remnant of when the table was over here. Because it would be blinding to sit there.
Remember the town clerk did that to her windows in the front because of the glare and because the sun coming in was so hot.
Yeah. Well, you can. I
And
mean,
when she did it, she did have relief.
you can buy the tint right at Walmart or
Lowe's,
Yeah,
yeah,
whatever.
Lowe's,
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
It's just a cling.
Could I give some
Yeah.
input here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So on the outside of the building looks very nice and consistent. I think we should be consistent with it. And if you block this one here and that one there, in a couple months, it's going to be that one. Another month,
That's
it's that one.
To do them all.
Because that. So whatever we're going to do, we should do it to all the windows. And we already have the brackets for the shades. Shades are very inexpensive. We don't have to hire anybody to do it. Why don't we just put the shades right across?
Well,
All
the tint
brackets
is
are
very
already- I'm
inexpensive
just-
and you don't see it from the outside. The shades, you see it
You
from the
do see
outside.
the tint from the outside when you drive up and you see the downstairs. And you would definitely see that one looks like this and one looks like that.
Well,
And
if we do them
I'm
all,
I'm not saying to argue, I'm just stating my
no, I'm not going to
opinion.
argue with
So
you,
if
John.
I
I'm
could
not
finish
arguing.
that.
I agree
So
with you.
if
We
get
should
the
do them
shades,
all.
which would only cost, I think like $8-10 a piece, like they were
Last
originally.
time you bought shades.
You can get them online.
Oh.
Like that. And they just snap right in.
window, so you're still going to have light, anyways, because it doesn't cover that much of the window.
And these shades aren't
If you
cheap
look at,
anymore.
I didn't realize it. I thought it went all the way to the top.
Right. They're not.
Why don't we get a cost both ways?
Yeah.
See what you can, the other thing is see what you can find for that cling stuff that
Mm,
if it's going to do what we want it to do.
Right, right.
Polarize the windows.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I would agree
It'll
with
tone
John,
it, it'll
as
tone
long
it
as it's
down.
consistent all
Right,
the way around, right?
right. Yeah, do them
And
all.
if you're going to
Like
do,
John said, do them all. Make it consistent.
if you're going
Make
to
it
do tint,
Right.
you
Make
need
it
to make sure
consistent.
that it's someone
Right.
that knows what they're doing. So like John said, in a couple months or 6 months down the road, you're not going to see nothing but bubbles, right? You want to make sure that whoever does it
Knows what they're doing.
knows what they're doing,
Good point.
Yeah.
because it will
It
if you
will.
don't do it the right way the first time.
Clean
It
them
will.
properly and
Yeah, they got to be cleaned properly, and
Right.
so
Absolutely right.
But I would say if you did it, I would go with probably the darkest tint that you can get, which I think is the 50%.
Okay. So you got that, Scott?
Yep.
Okay. All right. The next one, I have a question about I'm going to jump ahead to your report, Tim. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The manifest, JP Carter. We didn't we sign a contract with them almost a year and a half ago for them to do the generator, all encompassed together for the generator?
for
Are you talking
For the
about?
senior center?
Senior center?
Yes, so this was a service call that's in the accounts payable right now. It was a service call because it had a trouble light on it. And
Ah, it was,
according to the vendor, that's what they said. I can review it with him again. I can call Josh and talk to him about it. But there was, yeah, there was a contract originally, and they did install it.
They hadn't gone up and finished what they was supposed to go up and do.
Okay, I'll review it with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk with you later about it.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, lastly, but the senior center is doing the Christmas fundraiser for $250 worth of scratch tickets for $10 each.
Mhm.
We only have 17 tickets left. That's it, folks. So if you want them, you have to get in touch with one of our executive committee members, myself, Emily, Iris, Jane, Sandy, or Deb. That's it for me. Now on to town administrator.
I got my tickets already.
Me too.
Okay,
I got mine.
all right.
Well, Jen got it.
First, I'd like to ask the board, just make sure it's okay. The Main Street shopping announcements, we have some signs. I have signs for John, Joe,
Oh, the door.
and Catherine who agreed to take them, but we did,
Me
okay.
too.
All right, I'll get you one.
Yeah, I
She only left me 3, but the board did okay, Shane, to, after the parade, to use the message board to make the announcements for downtown. So I just want to make sure that if the board sees that, they understand that I'm going to have Shane do it afterwards. So I'd like the board to know that I'm going to call it the Pat and Scott Road Show. I figured I'd put some life into this and add a little sense of humor if we can, because many of you have gotten calls regarding assessments and taxes. Madam Chair suggested that maybe we hold a specific meeting with a large group of concerned people regarding their assessment and not meeting the elderly exemptions at the Hemlocks. So just so the board's aware, we've been to 2 different public forums to discuss simply that it's the assessments that are affecting people in multifamily homes and manufactured homes specifically. Um, the reason that we're seeing, or we've seen in other communities, not just Tilton, have seen significant increases is because it's market driven. And the most affordable housing market right now is those folks. Older homes, manufactured homes in parks. We're going to see a significant amount of abatement requests. We've been working with Lauren, and in the discussions that Pat and I have had with folks, I personally have reiterated that it's not our assessor who created this problem. It is market driven. We need to, I think it's important that we all understand and we be on the same sheet of music so that our citizens understand we're trying to do the best that we can for them. And I might add that I would like to throw in add a girl for Amy. Amy has been fielding all of the calls, helping many seniors fill out these forms. And we had a Friday that Amy had a group, I had a group, we were working on them. So the board needs to be prepared for, what's to come as a result of this. But it is market driven, and a lot of folks don't understand that. They
Mhm.
don't understand, especially the manufactured housing folks that live in a park. They have a question. Why am I charged for the land? I don't own the land, I rent it. Very good point. But that fee, and Tim will tell you, Tim understands this, I think, better than I, that fee was minimal for a long period of time over the years in past assessments. However, because of the housing market in New Hampshire and across the nation, that now has become very attractable to people that are, especially people that are trying to purchase their first time homes. The $250,000, $300,000 housing market is the housing market. A year ago, it was the 450 and 500,000, and I have been listening, a lot of listening, a lot of reading, a lot of learning, to try and understand so that when we meet with these folks, we can have an explanation for them. I think, I'm not going to speak for the chair, but I think many of them over the years don't understand their tax bills, how they're broken down. And I say this to you folks as the elected officials because if your phone hasn't been ringing, and I know your phones have, and the supermarket visits are difficult, but I think it's important that the message that we have been portraying from the selectman's office in the town of Tilton to the taxpayers is we are doing what we can to work with you on this. Um, Tim is going to discuss with you some discussions that the tax collector and he have had and some plans for what may become in the future as a need for our citizens. But I have been, as your town administrator, I have been encouraging folks to reach out to their representatives. These things are very difficult. And when we have multiple people in the office downstairs that are literally in tears, it's very concerning. And I intend on a personal level to reach out to some folks that I know in Concord. And Joe Kenny, our executive counselor, and Tim Lang, one of our senators here in Tilton. I really think that the community needs to make sure that we pass along to the folks that, you know what, we need you to pay your taxes to run the town, but we also need you to understand where these increases come from, and how, if any way, we can control them. So I hope I didn't belabor that too much, but I did want to make sure that the board knew that when we talk to these folks at these things, we represent that the Board of Selectmen have made sure that we have an assessor, that our assessments are up to date, that we now ask as part of a new contract signed that Eric will sign later, we ask for updated photos so that our citizens say, hey, listen, I went online and looked at the tax card or the photo of my house and it was 10 years ago. No, we've been working, and Lauren has been working very diligently to try to help and at least relay the message that, one, we care, two, we can explain the best that we can what's driving this problem. And it's not the town of Tilton municipal government spending. So, and
Can
people are understanding of that. We received a very warm, well, not so warm when we arrived, but warm when we left, welcome at a couple of events because people better understood and they understood some of the reasoning, although it can't be explained that is a make sense way. But so thank you, and I'll move on.
I have to make a comment.
Absolutely.
I just need you to know that I don't agree with what you said.
No.
It is a municipal problem. The
Right.
Board of Selectmen are the assessors of the town. The law allows us to hire someone to do that in our stead. And then we are required to either accept or not accept those assessments. It's not just market driven. Assessors have to interpret the market. And I'm not going to beat the wagon or we're going to be here another hour, but this market, this housing market is driven not by normal purchases, and it should not have affected the rest of the properties. So I just want you to know I'm not on the same page
Okay.
at all.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had one particular call, and I think there's a bunch of us here have a Mr. Z. I'm
Mhm.
familiar with him. And I looked at his tax card, and there was an amount for, I think it was extras or others, that was 7,000 last year, and this year it's 73,000. It's not
Correct.
for the structure.
Amenities.
So how did his property get from 7,000 to 73,000 in that period of time?
That's the amenities, John, what you're talking about. And amenities, 7,000 was what they used to get charged for the land prior.
Mhm.
And then this year, because of the market nationally, that is now much more marketable property. One of the things that Lauren and others say to me, and I said, and Pat said at some of these forums, is that, some folks say I can't get $250,000 for my house. Yes, you can. You can. The market is telling that you can. And you know what? When a 73-year-old lady says to me, how do you explain that my 1980 mobile home that sits on rented land is now worth $225,000, and last year was worth 70?
Mhm.
It's the same with.
Just at 7,000 to 73,000.
I agree.
That I can't.
It's ridiculous.
I don't see. I'd like to find out how that is
So
calculated.
I think, and I agree with you, I think one of the things that I wanted to kind of, and I think I sent an email to Scott about this, like, I think it's very important that we do break it down in a lay term. So people, because I can tell you, I know several people that they don't really understand their tax bills
Correct.
in the context that they probably should, right? And some people just don't pay attention to those things as much as they should. Life gets in the way, right? And then when the tax bill comes, it's like, oh, wow, okay.
How much can go up?
Exactly. So, right, exactly. And so I think it's very important that we do break those things down.
We did.
And you know what I mean? And I wrote back to that person as well, and I explained to them that we would be talking about this, and that I think it's important that we do find ways to break it down so that we can talk about these things in those contexts of people that may not understand these.
So in those definitions on the tax card, specifically what that is.
Yeah.
Because I still can't find out what it is, except for what you just said.
Right.
So
Yep.
unless everybody that has a mobile home calls you and asks for your verbal definition,
That's correct, John.
you don't
Right.
know. So
That's
we
right.
need to
At Jensen's,
specifically
it's-
write that out
Right.
in writing and
Yep.
be able to supply it.
Jensen's, it's 132,000. Gaslight's 55,000. Sherwood's was 73,000. So
Correct.
they're different.
But I'd
Right.
like to know what specifically, how that number is calculated in writing. It's in-
Right.
I'm saying, well,
It's like a view tax.
Yes, exactly, Catherine.
yeah.
Yep.
It's like a
It's an
Lake
amenity
frontage.
to the
Oh, yeah.
to
It's
the
an-
it's an
area,
extra.
to what's
Yep.
there. Tim,
But I think
Tim
people need
has
to
got a
know
better,
those. They need to understand.
Tim has got a better explanation, so let him,
outrageously-
So
explain.
I'm not
it.
looking for a verbal explanation, like
Right.
Scott said, we need to go and define these for the people, because you talking to me and then everybody calling up and asking isn't going to do good. We need to have question and
Identified.
answers. You know,
Perhaps
if you
there
look
could-
at something and you say commonly asked FAQs,
We can do that, yeah.
There must
Do
be
that.
something we can put on the website.
We can.
To help people
FAQs.
Yeah,
maneuver
and-
through what their
Yeah.
tax bill,
Right,
their tax card, not their tax bill, but their tax card is
Right.
showing them.
right.
There, just a couple of quick things. We do have that. There is also in the assessing manual, which is on the website.
Right.
It has a whole breakdown of all the codes. And then if you're able to get through the 300 pages, and granted, we can definitely do a FAQ on this. And if you looked at my report, I had some things at the end of my report that might be helpful. But but what I wanted to clear up was that the value didn't change between last year and this year.
like
So
5 years.
It's 5 years, right? So in 2019, when the townwide assessment was done in 2019, the value was $7,000. And if you look through, it's all table driven. When assessors do this work, they assign certain values to certain things, and it's all within that assessing manual, what make up these feature codes. But in any case, if you recall, every year we get the equalization ratio. So last year our equalization ratio was 53.2%, meaning that if your house for the last 4.5 years was at $100,000 on the tax card, your property was $100,000. The state says the town of Tilton as a whole, from what we can tell, is about 53.2% of what the real market value is right now, based on their statistical analysis, meaning that that $100,000 home, once revalued, should be somewhere in the $190,000, in that area. So in any event, it's hard to explain some of those things, but but all those codes for the tax cards, we can put that in the FAQ. We can also put some of the helpful hints, in there too about.
People aren't going to
what to look for.
understand those codes, though. I mean,
No.
they
Well,
need
that's
it
my
in
concern.
real terms. They need it
Right.
in lay
the
terms.
The assessing manual, I've looked at it, and it does tell you real terms for the codes.
Right.
You just have to go through
Yeah.
it.
300
And
I mean,
pages.
it's not
unfortunately,
right
If you do the
there. We could take
FAQs,
those
then you can
and
Right.
put
give to,
them in a
Yeah.
much more
Right.
accessible location.
and unfortunately, the tax cards themselves, there's so much information packed onto them
Yep.
that there's so little room to
Use it.
really, make it a human readable form.
Sure.
It's useful to somebody that knows what they're looking at, and but I think we can do better.
you put a
with,
circle next to each box with the number one, you
Yep,
put down one. That's
exactly,
what that
yep.
is. So if they're charging like the 73,000 now for those lots, like, for instance, you mentioned Sherwood Drive, they have maybe 30 more lots that are empty. So all those are getting taxed 73,000?
No, not yet.
So, but the,
Not until they full as of April 1st, whatever's there April 1st of that
so all
year.
the empty lots will
They
get
don't get
charged. So they don't charge for that, the value of that lot, unless you put
A home on
a
it?
home on it.
That doesn't make
But it's
sense.
still of that
No.
value because
No.
it's just
That
sitting
lot
right
should have that value.
Yes.
That somebody with a home is having.
They
to
would have the
pay.
land value on it, but they
Correct.
wouldn't have the home. Yeah.
Yes.
Have the
But the
land
home's getting
value.
taxed for the value of the
Yeah,
home.
the owner of that
And then the lot
property
is getting value for the prop.
should be taxed that value that
Right.
they're putting on that
So the
lot.
corporation gets charged for that.
Correct.
Which is unfortunate because that is just going to go to the rent of the present people
Yep.
and tack it on to even more.
Right.
That's right.
Yep.
So I think we really need to look at that portion of the,
All this is based in a very unfair housing market.
That's correct.
That's what it's all about.
Yep. And an unfair tax
You know?
system.
Somebody
Well,
comes in.
Property taxpayers bear the burden throughout the state of New Hampshire. I know we live in the tax-free state, but yeah, the chair would tell you, try to register your new car. But, and I shared this openly with many of the groups that the, the property taxpayer in New Hampshire is bearing the burden of municipal education, fire district, water district, all the other costs, and the county, and education.
Mhm.
And you'll see in your booklets that I provided to you that the 2025 Belknap County budget, a letter was sent by the commissioners to you to identify what they were going to be addressing in 2025.
one more thing, John,
Hmm.
if it's any solace at all, those 30 lots will be filled next year because
There's a market for it.
Right?
they've already started doing the process already.
Yep.
So
They're already
they're all,
improved. They already have
they've
soil
already-
on them. They already have,
they've already done the site plan.
you know, so
Yeah,
Yeah, they'll be up in no time.
yep,
Yep.
by spring.
nothing.
Madam Chair, can I ask for the board to take a vote on the PTO?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is that
Yes,
document floating around?
it's in the to be signed folder, but we can't sign it until we
Oh.
take a vote.
Okay.
Haven't
And,
seen
and
it.
this was discussed with the board about basically just giving the non-unionized employees the same benefit. And you folks discussed it and agreed. I believe it was on the 7th meeting.
Yeah,
We talked about it.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
We
which
talked
one
about it.
was.
There's no monies.
It's banking.
It's
PTO.
banking. It's just banking their pay time
Yep.
hours. That's what it is.
I know Catherine. Are you reading it now, Catherine?
No, John is.
John
Oh,
is.
John. Okay.
You read it?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
While we're waiting, are you guys doing any more info sessions?
We haven't. We did the last one
We're
yesterday.
not doing
So.
it.
It
I
is.
was curious.
And basically, we've done the same here at the town hall
Mhm.
and the multitude of phone calls. Everybody in town hall's getting them.
Yeah.
I mean, Johanna,
The reason why we did that
Yeah.
was because there was,
they were hit hard.
we wanted to avoid 80 or 90 people coming to
Yeah.
town hall.
Right.
No, it makes sense.
And we thought that we could just
Yeah.
meet them there. I took my lunch down there and we did it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Right.
How much time are full-time employees allowed to roll over now?
80
80.
hours.
All employees are allowed to roll over 80, part-time and
Is
full-time.
this 120 in addition to the 80?
Yes, but
So now you're talking about 200 hours?
so that
So
is a,
essentially, you could have a situation where you have an employee that decides to leave in January, and we're going to pay him 200 hours?
But that 120 is maxed out. You can't add to it or anything.
Right.
That's it.
No, but
It's
that's
done.
120 to
What's-
be used for this purpose.
It-
What
Correct.
I'm saying is if I've banked 120 in this and I've rolled over 80,
Mhm.
I'm going to have 200 hours that if I decide to leave, we're going to have to pay them.
That's correct. Yeah, it's the
Instead of
same.
the use it or lose it.
Well, it's the same at the PD,
Right.
and the
There's a
officers
lot of
have,
things I don't like about the PD union
The-
agreement.
officers have been using that. We have about 70% have taken advantage of that so
Mhm.
far.
So,
And it's intended to be a one-way that only they can't use that until they've exhausted all their other PTO.
I see that.
So it's like an emergency bank if they need it down the road.
so somebody could work a year with,
Have you seen this?
working three days a week. Because it could take 10 hours a month off PTO. They bank all that, then they could take it off. I'm just-
I'm not
Don't-
sure I follow.
The only problem with these is that, I understand they do it at the police department, but the police department pays union dues. They pay dues out of their paycheck every week to negotiate all these, and it's a different beast. But we have regular employees, and no offense to the employees, Pat, Scott, Tim, but you're not paying union dues. And,
And we don't want them paying.
yeah.
That's the reason
But they might as well, pay union dues because they get the same benefits of the union.
Right.
And
Not
they
all
don't
of
have
Well,
to
no,
negotiate it.
there are specific
so-
benefits that the PD
Right.
has that
Right, a different,
other employees.
we're
would
just
never
trying to
have.
make it fundamentally fair.
Yeah.
So.
And the board from the get-go, when the union was created, the strategy at the time was the board always, for many years afterwards, wanted to make sure that the non-union employees
Receive the same.
received a equal or better situation than what was negotiated through the union. So that hasn't always been the case, but that was.
Sometimes they've gotten better. Yeah. Many times
Well,
gotten
we've
better. Yeah.
attempted to do that, but we can't
Tempted.
match that. The
No.
townspeople couldn't afford it.
Right.
But I'm just thinking, isn't there language that could be added to that? I just realizing that 120, once it's banked, becomes now something that's payable instead of them losing it.
Well,
Now it's an asset.
Thanks. Because let me cover. So at the end of every year, we assess the accruals, and the accruals are shown. So in other words, any money that is left over that is carried over into the next year, we have to account for it. But money that would be banked, we can take that out of the current year and put that into a liability so that when they do leave, it's not going to affect our budget. That make sense to you? In other words, it's a liability of the town that the town owes to that employee at some point in time, the 120 hours. And when they use it, it would come out of that.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay. So in other words, it wouldn't affect a then current budget necessarily.
Well, it's going to affect the budget somewhere.
Right.
Want to see it again?
We're going to pay money out.
Well,
It's going to
They
come out
could
of
have
some
just
budget.
taken the time off and then this conversation is moot.
No,
No?
because we're asking, we're allowing them now to roll over, if you will,
Yeah.
more hours.
I'd rather
It
see
used
them
to be
take
you
their
can
time
roll
off.
over 80, and if you have more than that, you've lost it. You didn't use it, you've lost it. Well, that's not the case.
Well,
The Fair Labor Standards Act is.
so I, to some degree, I agree with what you're saying, Catherine. I think it's important that our employees do utilize their time off, right?
Yeah.
The issue I have is if things happen where they're just not able to take the time off, whether it be work, whether it be someone left and somebody else had to step in to fill in their shoes. I mean, take Tim, for instance, right? How much did he fill in?
Mhm.
Could he have taken time off?
No.
He could have if he didn't have to fill all those extra shoes.
Not during the summer. Right?
So
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, and I understand that. And my PD is the same way. You can only roll over X amount of hours. But I also feel that that could be very beneficial to helping an employee if something were to go wrong with them.
Cancer case.
It's crucial to have knowing that they have some extra hours to help if they need that time off. So that's my thought on that. I understand what you're saying, and I think it's an important point. But I just feel like if we're so hard on the drawing that line of you either use it or you lose it, well, you're going to get to employees where they just can't take the time off.
And the Board of Selectmen in the past have listened to those and made exceptions and
Many
allowed
times, yeah.
more times.
And
Because
Yeah,
we
we've always-
get it. But
Right.
on the other hand, it's a little bit of that is contradictory. If you have people that can't take the time off, they're the ones who've got that 80 hours that they're throwing over into the next year to add to what they're going to accumulate.
Yep, I agree.
And then, so
But
it
I just
really benefits the person who uses all their time off because they can't use the 120 hours unless they've exhausted their regular time off.
Yep.
So
I
And
think,
then
I think that, go ahead.
my other question is, are there exceptions to what they can use the 120 hours for? I mean, if I just decide I want to go to Tahiti for 2 weeks and I don't have enough time, can I take it out of that bank to go to Tahiti? Or is it really designed if I have a family emergency and I've got to go to whatever and take care of a family member, then I can take it out of the bank?
Yeah, there's no,
Be a Walt Disney ride or Disney World or whatever that place is called.
we can't dictate specifically what they can use it for,
Right.
unfortunately. Fair Labor Standards Act is pretty clear on that, I think.
I think that the question would be to Tim, how many people, I mean, let me be upfront. I mean, I know I'm an employee, but I have no stake in the game here. I'm like,
Neither do I.
I have absolutely no stake in the game here. How many people actually are vital in this participation here? You have town hall and public works. So maybe a handful, I don't
20.
know. I don't know that number. And how many would participate? Maybe a handful. So look at the numbers and look at what you're actually asking. I think that's what what you're looking at here. And it's then you look at the office where they're coming from and look at the jobs that they're working at.
right, but it also comes down to management too. If
Correct.
they're mismanaging their time, and I mean, there are things. I mean, that just comes down to good management. So
Correct.
I understand your concern on it. I completely understand that, especially if you're looking at it from a lens of the cost and the overall, are we going to be just people working only 3 days a week?
I mean, right now, if you look at the employees we really have an exceptionally dedicated crew of people working for the town of Tilton.
We do.
I've been sitting here and I can't think of one of them that I think would abuse this at all. But there's always the newcomer down the road, the exception. And fortunately, we've had some exceptions that didn't last.
But you're going to take the good with the bad. I mean,
I understand. I don't want to penalize
right.
those exceptional employees because I'm worried about that one maybe.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I understand.
What would be the difference if if those that have enough to buy it out in December, buy it out? You still have that chunk of money going out in December, a whole big chunk of money going out in December or if that employee goes out in January or February, when you say, oh, okay, he goes out in January and he banked the money and decided to leave, it's still the same. It's still the same analogy.
we're adding 120 hours to that analogy now.
Well, not necessarily. Some people only bank 50. Some people only bank 40. There's people at the PD that only bank 40 hours right
The
now.
possibility to bank 120 is there. But again, I'm
Yeah, there is that
we've talked it
ability.
out.
So
Amy made a comment today, if I can just add to this, when we were talking about the pros and cons of this. Amy made a statement to me. She goes, I think it's a terrific idea, but I'm going to use my time. I like my time off, and I'm going to take it. So,
And I think that's what we have.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I would agree
Not
with
people looking for,
that. Right.
that savings bank, if you will.
Yeah.
So
these cannot be cashed out except for upon the end of their employment?
Yeah.
Does it
Or in
specify?
case of emergency.
Except
So they
in
could
that
cash out. How can
In
people
case of
cash out?
emergency.
They can't.
they have to leave.
they can't cash it out.
They have to leave. They have to
My
quit.
understanding is that.
Well,
if
they can go
they had
to,
cancer.
right,
They had
that
68
absolutely,
hours
but
worth
that's
of-
not really a cash out. That's taking the time off.
Right.
Right.
So they
That's
can do
different.
that,
Right, that's
which is my
different.
point.
Yes.
Right.
Your
And
point is well taken,
that's a
Joe.
good use.
That's right.
Yes.
That's a use, John.
Yep.
Joe, I
So-
mean, yep.
Who wrote this up?
We did.
So
That's from the CBA.
That's from the CBA.
It
Same language.
mimics the CBA, John.
mimics exactly the same?
Except for one exception, which is where it says town administrator. In the
Right.
CBA,
December
it
10th.
says the chief of
Chief of
police.
police, right.
They have to go to
right.
the chief.
And as Eric said earlier, if it's a management issue, it's going to come to me. So,
And they can't draw on that unless they've used all their time.
correct.
And
I'm a yes.
it's meant to be a one-way.
So they have
Right.
to get rid of all their time. Just,
Right.
a little history. I think we had it at 60 hours you could carry over about 4 or 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Then we changed it to 80 hours.
That's
And now
correct.
we're changing to 120 hours.
Mhm.
So I'm just making a point.
220 is separate from the
200.
80.
Right,
Mm.
it's separate.
Yeah,
Yeah, once it's 120, that's it.
it's very different.
It doesn't move.
Yeah.
We have one person that's got 15, they put in another 40, 158.
And with that 80, my thought would be if they are now going to try to tap into that other, like, there's going to be a question that's going to come up about that,
That's correct.
right? You're going to be, I would assume that when Abe gets that quest, he's probably going to have someone like the lieutenant or sergeant connect with that officer and
Right.
say, hey, what's going on? Like what, I mean, there's got to be, that's where the management stuff comes into play. And I think those things are important, but
We cannot say, no, you just can't take the next 120 hours off.
no, but I think there's an opportunity because there may be some underlying family thing that's going on
Yeah.
that we
Right.
can support them as.
Exactly.
Well,
Correct.
and if, let's say you've planned a trip to Bimini or wherever, and then you've got to go take care of.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah. I think that's in the tropics. You have to go take care of a family member instead, so there goes your
Yep.
vacation.
Right.
Well, now, if you've used up your time doing that, you've got this, and you
I
can
have-
still take your trip to Bethany.
I know an officer right now that he has to keep going to Utah because his dad is in a home. Like just all of a sudden, his mom passed away, and so he's scraping for his time.
Yeah.
You know, and there's really nothing he can do about it. So I'd like to make a motion to accept. Do you want me to read all of that?
No, just
The amendment to personnel
amendment.
policies and employee manual
Yes, thank you, John.
That.
as presented.
As presented.
Second.
So the motion was to accept the amendment to the PTO policy.
Yes.
Motion by Eric, second by Catherine. Discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
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 Aye. A motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. In your to be signed folder, there is an abatement for veterans credit, a taser and body camera contract, and TAN that Tim will talk to you about. I wanted the board to know that today I shipped off the letter for the Winnipesaukee River Trail request that Ken Norton brought forward.
Read it.
Okay, and I did ship it to all of you, so I did get a response back from DOT that they had received it and will, in fact, forward me the further information as the grant becomes available. So
Do you still want me to send a letter of support?
I do. And if you can just send that to us, Joe, that would
Yep.
be great.
Yep.
I'm going to ask Jane as well. It's really crucial that we have Lakes Region Planning Commission's support on that when we move forward. So the board knows we talked about reaching out to Franklin in Northfield, which was done back when the original trail was presented, and we were a united front on this from 3 communities, and we plan on doing that as well. So
Good.
So next, in your packets or in your binders, under department head, or is it, I believe it may be under town administrators report. I have, let me find it here. I have my report, which talks about the Island Bridge. We're going to have some discussion about that later. I attended the Belknap County Community Power Meeting, which I did send you folks via email. In the last part of my town administrator's report, I have the town hall office adjustments, and I've included in your packet a quote, as we discussed with the board at the last meeting, regarding a quote regarding the costs of the adjustments to the offices to design. There is a town hall office adjustment drawing in the behind the report that explains the costs, and the drawing kind of just gives you an idea of what you would be looking at should we move forward with this. And Tim and I would be glad to take any questions, because if you've had a chance to briefly look at it, you'll see that it's a no frills. And as I indicated in my report, it's helpful space to be used to help employees be able to better use their time, their
Where's
office space.
Located?
It's under town administrator's report
Wow.
and then you'll see
Toward the back.
then you'll see the Tilton Island Bridge quote, the Belknap Community Power quote, and then you'll see the estimate of repairs. It's issued by AC Property Management, and it gives a breakdown of what the costs involved, what he's designing, and then we have a picture of what the offices would look like.
Where are these located on this floor?
They should be located right behind my report.
No,
Yeah,
no.
but on this
Physically,
floor,
where
where
would
would these
right here.
offices be?
This corner, right here.
Oh,
And
where's
where would sewer be?
going?
Sewer is going to go to the health officer's office if we have not met with the sewer commissioners yet to discuss this. Yeah, I know. And but we wanted to make sure that the board understood what we were attempting to do. We've had some discussion with Johanna. Johanna is more than happy to move back there. We would make the accommodations. That was one of the reasons we wanted to make sure the heat was working. The AC is going to be installed, so that would become more regular and usable space. And we would create, right where Tim's setting would be a door, another egress, because the only egress is from that side. But Tim, and there would be a set of stairs that would come down so that in the event somebody was in the office that became irate or whatever, that there's an escape route. So
What
that,
would be there?
what's that? Over here would be, we were going to put Heather. Heather's office needs to be secure. We were going to use our recording secretary to go down there where it's perfectly quiet under the stairs, nobody's around. And our building inspector and code enforcement officer would share that space. Instead of having 4 people, we would have 2, and 1.
So how do you make Heather's office secure? There's only one doorway in.
Correct. There's only one doorway in, but we would secure the door so that her files need to be secured. Is that what you mean?
No.
Oh,
if
you
you've
mean-
got one doorway in and you've got 2 people using this other office,
Oh,
that's not secure.
how would she escape?
No.
Yeah.
We're gonna have that door into.
Oh, yeah, yes. Yeah.
Interior door.
Interior door. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So it'll
I
split
didn't
that room in
understand you.
half.
Yeah, I didn't understand you. I'm sorry. So,
So, and we're doing this, why? Or proposing to do this, why?
because people currently working in that office behind us, there are 4, actually 5, right? Chuck, Cindy, Lauren,
Mhm.
Pat. So there's 4 in there. Currently, those folks have to make their calls in stages, Catherine. So if Chuck and Cindy are on the phone at the same time, if you look in there, they're literally sitting back to back. In fact, I think they've got to coordinate the movement of their chairs so they don't run into each other. That's a very small space. We were trying to make the space up here more usable and more private so that in the event you carry on a conversation, that you in fact can carry on a conversation with a little bit of privacy. And you don't have to say, okay, Pat, it's your turn to make phone calls. Okay, Joanna, okay, Cindy, it's your turn to make a phone call. Or Chuck, you can make your call.
So how often is Chuck in?
3 days a week.
And he's not in
Yeah.
here all day.
He's not in here all day. No,
He's in here a short time because he's out there.
correct.
So,
Scott,
I mean, what?
Lauren,
Again,
yeah.
Lauren used to do her work downstairs in the meeting room at that table with a computer,
Right,
with a phone.
right.
And she
right.
would meet people there at that table.
All the
Right.
records are up here.
But all the
Right.
records are up here and she works
They're
very,
also online.
but she also works very closely with the land use technician with
Right.
all of the data that she collects and changes with all of the work that she does.
I had a question. So you were just explaining
No.
how the seats were back to back.
Yep,
Can we take a look in the office?
Is there
sure can.
is there going to be room to put a door
Yes.
to
Yeah,
separate?
The door would separate. Heather's office would be on this side,
Mhm.
which needs to be secured by law.
Yep.
That door would separate. So Heather is rarely here, which would give us, using her office downstairs, which is under the stairs, is very quiet.
Mhm.
And our recording secretary currently, and I'm sorry, there's the other person that's in there, Sue, our recording secretary,
Yep.
whom I forgot. She has to try to record while Cindy and Chuck and Pat are on the phone.
Why isn't she using the table up there on the stage?
I
Very
thought
quiet.
why wouldn't she use Heather's office? I thought she was going to go down there.
Well, because that
No.
has to be secure.
It has to be secured.
Morning, if-
She can't
Yeah.
be into Heather's office
Correct.
because of the records that are in there.
Right. It's law,
She
John.
could be
So
up there on that table.
Right.
Very quiet.
on that table out back.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just saying, this is
Here
a
with
lot of
headphones.
money because we have some part-time employees
Mm.
that aren't here 40 hours a week or even
Right.
30 hours a week or 20 hours a week.
Right.
This is a lot of money to spend
Right.
to accommodate them when we can accommodate them with what we have already.
There's other issues I asked
Lauren's
to
here, what,
address.
once a month? I'm
Fire,
sorry.
Right.
if you put a suspended ceiling, you insulate
In
off
one.
the leak of fire.
Yeah.
The next thing you have, we know heat's uneven here. We've always had complaints that the outside walls are cold.
Yeah.
Or the outside walls are hot in the summer. So
Right.
now we have to install new types of air ventilation for that room.
Mm.
The fire, we have no smoke detectors. We'll have to have that put in there.
Yeah.
So, we know how the sun comes through and how much it heats the offices.
Right. Well,
You know-
I think what we're talking about here is nothing other than usable space, and employees that are trying to do their work, and
We don't
unfortunately,
have a cost yet for all those things. We're not looking at those other costs. They aren't even included.
Right.
Look ahead, because we don't, so
the cost is included in there.
for fire,
Oh,
smoke
no,
detectors,
no,
all that,
just,
fire safety, heating, air conditioning.
no, I don't think that's needed in there. Do you, Tim? I don't know.
We have the same thing, up
It's
here.
open right now and it's always so hot up here anytime I've been up
You're
here.
going to close that off as this proposes. You're
Right.
going to need air conditioning in there.
Summer. The other thing, so.
There's only
I'm
one
looking at
one
this
office closed
on the
off.
date of 11/25. Today, why couldn't we have gotten this to look at before?
Right.
We're
I just got it.
getting this,
Yeah.
and it's in our notebook. It could have gone out in an email to look at it. We're trying to make a $31,900 decision that we don't
Right.
have all the information on. And
Right.
in the last meeting, the three selectmen voted and said, we're asked, we said, no, we don't want to proceed with it.
I don't
No.
recall that.
It's right in the minutes.
That you voted no to proceed with it?
We said no. Three selectmen said no.
Well, I recall the discussion that
It's in the minutes.
I would get you some quotes, and this quote is what I thought was the best quote.
Yeah, it's,
Do we still
May
require
I?
3 quotes?
Go ahead, Tim.
I just have a question. I mean, if given where we are in December, would the board be opposed to supporting the move of the land use coordinator and land use technician to that space? Not saying build out the space, but to relocate them there if the sewer commission, were in agreement to move the sewer commission to the stage, And then really the expense you would have would be to secure the one side of the land use offices for the health, for the welfare officer.
Yeah.
Hey, this selectman is not willing to spend money to provide an office space for part-time employees. I mean, you're talking about one person who's here once a month, one day out of the month. One day, somebody else is here a couple of hours during the week.
Cindy and Sue. Sue's finding it. Yeah.
Is here probably more often than the other two. And again,
Yeah.
right up there, nice and quiet. She wants to do all the transcribing, and there's a telephone there she can use if she needs it.
So
There's a computer
otherwise,
there if she needs to access something.
I mean,
But
if you,
I'm just saying, and you know, and Lauren can do her work over here.
I mean, the expense would be, in that case, if you were willing to do it without the build out, would be the expense of 2 doors basically, and moving the stairs that are housed on the stage out so that it could be accessed for an emergency.
Yeah, so
That'd be
you're
the only
talking
thing.
about an expense. You can't just move
Hmm.
all of this onto that stage, because if you go up there, put a marble on the far side of the wall and see how quickly it goes this way.
Oh, I know.
I mean, when
You
I
can
was
open up that
thinking,
hatch and look.
I used to push my chair away from my desk and pick my feet up and race to my desk without doing anything. So
Yep. What meeting
there's a
was
lot
this?
more work than just
November
moving
21st.
all of this to up there, because it ain't level.
Gentlemen, no.
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 What did you say, Joe?
I said, Jessamine, no. You can talk about this all you want,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a no.
It's just,
In
you
its
know,
current form, I'm just a no.
with all the people complaining and hurting for taxes, we could put cubicles up there and do that. Gets airflow, gets light, and does that.
I guess that's my thought
Yeah.
too.
And, you know, we can get those. I think we even have some. And, you know, as for privacy, this is all public information. Nobody should be having a meeting where they can't be heard by other people.
Well, my
Pastor.
Heather does.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
it.
Heather has
She's
to.
got a spot.
and
Yeah.
and my concern would be if a supervisor needed to speak with an employee about behavior or correct.
Or the
So,
break
Right up
room
there.
downstairs.
right,
Or
You have an
there.
office.
your office.
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because if
I can't see.
that's the
spending-
case, like, there's a good chance you're going to be in on that meeting anyway.
Oh, most likely, yeah.
So that's,
Right.
so I agree with John on that.
Yeah.
I think if you were to do something, if you could come up with a way to utilize that, I mean, I just went back there, like, there's a lot of space that's just kind of unopened and spread out.
Right.
Like, I don't know everything that the sewer commission needs back there, but I mean, I just feel like something like that could be condensed. And I do like the idea of partitions, because then you don't have to worry about the airflow
Right.
and things like that. We probably might have some, John
I think
suggests,
we
so
had some.
if we
fixed them
don't,
up at
they're-
one point.
they're cheap
Right.
money compared to,
I know you can get them at the state office down at White's Farm. They're like giving them away.
I mean, I would agree. I think that since I started here, I do feel that this place seems very unorganized in the concept of way things are laid out.
Yeah.
And I think there could be some improvement to it.
Needs to be.
But I would also agree, I don't think that this $31,900 is something that we should be spending right now.
And again, you can't just move offices up there without leveling that floor.
Right.
That's,
Right.
And
Yeah,
But for
Yeah.
somebody to use it, for a few hours a week, whatever, it's fine.
Okay.
I don't know if you looked at the structure that holds up that stage.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
Please, we
Steel
have 3
girders.
no's.
So,
All right,
well, can we make that a motion? So
Go
we'll
ahead.
Bring it up again next week, that we make a motion that this time we don't approve the construction.
I think your
walls.
voice was heard.
No, we made it heard last week too, but we still proceeded on.
All right,
So
so
if I
you
make a
don't want to
motion that
believe
we
the town
don't proceed with
administrator? Go ahead,
permanent
John,
walls.
make a motion.
Well, 1 second, hold on, just please. Would it be possible if 1 or 2 of the selectmen worked with Scott and Tim on trying to come up with a plan that,
It's
mean,
helpful.
would that be
With
okay?
hard walls.
It's
So-
helpful.
I think if we're going to
That
do
much money.
anything about space,
Hmm.
I mean, if you look at the sewer commissioner space, you have one person working in this space. And what is the rest of it?
Right.
It's files.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about, that room over there. You have all these file cabinets on the stage. And quite frankly, I don't know what
They are.
3 or 4 of them are being used for. I mean, I use one for the health officer stuff, and I know there's one for the park commission, but I'm not sure what the others are used for.
I'm not.
And I've never had anybody come up there and access files up there. Doesn't mean they don't. But you've got a room over there that could be used to store filing cabinets. You know, maybe some of the sewer commissioner stuff that they don't use every day could be
Mhm.
there. And maybe
Yeah. I mean,
petitions.
Archives.
Now maybe you could petition this off. I mean, if you look right here, what are those? Those are the petitions you were talking about,
Yeah.
are they not?
I think they are. Yeah.
Yeah, there's several.
I mean, I don't want to.
So
I don't want to beat a dead horse. I just
Let's
think
just
it's
move
important.
on.
with very little money spent, which is basically a light bulb in that room, and most of that stuff can go to the historical society because it all came from the Grange. And then you could petition off a section there. Now you got a little office that costs you what? A light bulb and some petitions. That could be investigated.
That's what I would
Yeah.
suggest.
But I mean,
I understand, John. We don't.
I
We
don't
just
want to
wanna-
spend $31,000 and build permanent walls that are going to cause more problems, like, especially with ceilings and fire safety. There's only one exit from those. It's just the weight of the walls. You've got all these it's just,
all right.
I'm going to make a motion that we don't install any permanent walls on the stage.
On the stage?
I mean, in this room.
That's an interesting motion. They can all be overruled eventually, but I'll second it.
Yeah.
Because I know what point you're trying to make.
Message received at my end.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay?
Opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion denied. Okay,
I just don't want to come back next meeting with another try at
That
the
was
exact
just-
same thing.
Motion
from Livingston
received.
Road.
that was
I
an,
think you will.
that was an
No, I don't
odd
think you will.
motion, John. We got your point, but that was an odd motion.
But I know
We-
how this works, and it's always the end of the year. There's a little some money we can find kicking around.
Just
and
so
we
you
build
know, I'm not the initiator of that
Right.
motion. Just so you know, I'm not. I know I work there. I have nothing to do with it.
something. Just
Let's
making it
go.
clear.
I just want to make that very,
But-
very clear.
Does anybody object to Scott investigating
If we come up with another plan,
Right.
I'd be willing to listen.
without,
Sure.
But that
Thank you.
like I
particular
said,
plan,
the
I'm a
light
no.
bulbs and petitions maybe,
Yep.
and we
Thank
got
you.
another office,
Yeah,
Message.
that's fine.
Thank you.
and maybe some heat up there if we move those file cabinets.
I was the initiator.
No. Yeah, no, Scott,
Your window.
This is-
Scott and I had, in terms of this whole plan, this is something that had been kicked around since we started having issues back here. I personally feel like we could accomplish this with a secure inner door there and a light bulb, with some modification. The other people have been consulted that work up here, and particularly, the sewer administrator has looked at the stage and felt it would be okay with her. She liked it, but no one's talked to the sewer commission about
Correct.
it.
That was our next move.
Again,
Yeah.
that stage is so unlevel.
I know.
I mean, she hasn't experienced that until you've gone up there and sat in a chair,
And you roll.
something
I've,
else.
I've been in CBA meetings up there, and one side goes this way and the other one goes that way.
Yeah,
I know.
and there's a reason
But
why that's dropped.
I think we can
At
come up
one
with
point, it was level, remember that?
I think we could probably propose a way that it would be very inexpensive, and just to see if the board
I
would be
think we're
more
gonna
in
move on
favor
from
of that.
that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Please. just know I'm not the initiator of that.
I don't think we don't think that.
Well, somebody does. All right,
I just
keep
go by
going,
what I have in
keep
front of me.
going, Scott. Thank you.
Actually, I'm all set
Great.
for now. I'm
All
sure
right.
we'll be in discussion later.
All
And I
right,
know Tim has some stuff, so
thank you.
thank you.
Tim, you're up.
I just want to go on record that I was supposed to start at 6 p.m., Scott. So I always get accused of running long.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, you can
Anyway.
hit me later.
So my report is in your book under finance, and Scott's already mentioned the Axon agreement. That's the agreement. So it's a 5-year agreement. It's for all the body worn cameras and tasers. The lieutenant and chief have been working on that very, very hard. They've used a hybrid of equipment that they already have. They've gotten Axon to give us equipment under our prior contract, and they've minimized the expense to the largest degree we could. So so in any event, that is the you'll see it there. It's on the table in the to be signed folder. And then there's also a withdrawal that I may need to use for the tax anticipation note, as we have a large payable for the county and fire district. You have a question on the?
I've been trying to do the math in my head, but there's so much going on. This is what, how much is this a year?
I believe it should say right on the front sheet. I believe
It
it's
says
14.
total savings, 15,599.10.
So
Total cost, it's not 71,481. That says 81 months.
There's a breakdown on the first page by year, payments by year.
Yep.
I believe it's 14,111. I don't have it in front of me. No, thank you.
I have
oh,
it, but I
she-
just don't see where it says by the year.
I can pull it up on my phone. 'Cause I think you sent it in the email.
Is it on this? Oh, I got it. Yeah, it was on the
Yeah,
back
there
side
it
of
is.
that.
That's it.
I didn't even see
Yeah.
that writing. So it's 14,208.20.
Correct.
That's still for camera. That's a lot of money to have.
Well, and
In a
that
snapshot, what does that include? It's not just the camera. Is there
No,
storage?
it's
Is there
cameras, storage, replacement cameras, tasers, replacement tasers,
Okay.
Software too, I think.
software. Yep. Theevidence.com.
So it's tasers and cameras?
Everything that tasers and body worn cameras, correct.
I got a question real quick. Does the PD have
Just
the
Thank you.
the sensors on their holsters as well? So if they pull because that's
That I don't know.
because if you pull your weapon out,
Right.
it triggers
Activates it. Yeah.
So I was just curious.
Do you know, Scott?
I don't know.
I don't think Tilton
I
does
don't
have
think
it,
they do.
but that's
Wow, that's interesting.
it's important to have it. I mean,
Very.
if you ever pull your handgun out,
It's $10,000.
it should be recorded.
Right.
I, as a
So
regular person, not law enforcement by any means, no experience whatsoever, would assume the camera's on all the time.
no.
No, you have to tap it.
Yep. So
They turn it on.
there are
Don't turn it on at the beginning of their shift and shut it off when they're done. It's just
They have
when
a policy.
they think it's necessary, they turn it on.
Anytime they have an interaction with somebody,
That's
they're
right,
supposed to turn it on.
yep. That's
That's right.
Policy.
But if they have it, oh my goodness, they may not think about it. I get
They
it.
may
Okay.
not think about it.
So that is very interesting.
If they jump out of the car on a call,
So-
they're going to turn it on.
Yeah. So I'm sure I haven't read their specific policy, but I can speak from a policy. Anytime you interact with someone, anytime you exit your vehicle, unless you're walking into the PD or you're walking into a convenience store to buy a water or something like that, right? So
Or a pig.
so basically anytime
Named
right.
Theodore.
you are encountering someone,
On a call.
and then also lights going to a call, the lights on the cars they activate when you go code
No
3,
kidding.
it activates your camera and it activates the camera in the cars. They have
I'm
cameras
sorry,
in
it
the cars,
sounds
right?
expensive though.
So it's,
10,000
Yeah.
a month.
so it's,
To have that feature?
but you
They
have
have all
to,
these features as a bundle.
right. But you also have to think of the liability, right? It's,
One good lawsuit.
thank you. And it also helps with employees, so that when a complaint is made against them, they come to the PD, they make the complaint, the
Oh.
lieutenant or the supervisor watches the
Sure.
body cam video, right?
Yep.
So it helps with those
Protects them.
things as well.
Protects them, protects the town, and in theory,
Yeah.
protects the residents.
So when they pull their taser,
So the cop
their
doesn't
camera
abuse.
goes off as well.
So are you suggesting that we should look into it?
The one for the holster?
The automatic?
No, not, I mean, probably not right now. I mean, it's a newer function, so there's, I think, some bugs that still need to get worked out. You know how everything is when it's brand new.
Yes,
So,
I do.
but I think it's important that we support this type of software and stuff. It's a huge liability savings for us in the long run. And it protects our employees.
And
So-
unfortunately,
As we
They are
already
the-
know with the Free Stater a few years back. Remember that one?
Yes.
Which one?
Yep.
With the Free Stater.
Oh,
Remember that one?
yes, I do.
So someone has the original, is that right? On the
Yeah.
table?
Catherine
That
has it.
way.
Yes, it's right here.
Okay, all right, so.
Want it?
Well, now, if you would all, if you're in agreement, if you'd please sign it and
Oh.
send it in, and
Oh, yeah.
so we need to execute that.
No, I did sign it.
And hopefully, back real quick. Thank you for signing the TAN. Let's hope we don't need it. So in any case, I won't bore you with the updates, the first two updates, A and B, on the generator. And Pat, I did email Carter. I looked up on the contract and asked them to look into that. C, so, and also we went live with Belknap County this last week. We're still working out some issues. Most of it is procedural, officers figuring out which system they're logging into, that sort of thing. In terms of the land use permit study, so back in the late spring, early summer, the board approved me looking at our different permits. I'm still working on the public works one, but for land use, I put together not only examples of other towns, and you have their permit schedules behind my report, and I also pulled some others from the state, and then I also compiled a proposed permit schedule. I reviewed this with the land use coordinator and also with the building inspector. And I've given you some samples of recent permits and what that would have meant in terms of money. So the idea here is, as we're looking at our revenues for the town, when activity is taking place in the town that is, is adding to economic value, there's some portion of that should be borne maybe by the taxpayer because there's certain infrastructure costs, but otherwise the activity is being generated by a property owner for their benefit. And so therefore they should be bearing the cost, the majority of the costs associated with that. And in large part, looking at where our permit fees were, we were on the low end. We weren't way out of whack, but we were definitely on the low end for permits. And in fact, in some of the areas where there are a number of inspections that are required after the fact, we were not even covering the costs that the town bears. So in any event, and I've included in the packet for you to take a look at. This isn't something I expect you to act on tonight, but I included our permit schedule as well, so you can take a look at that. And I included the Exeter one because it was just so incredibly simple. There are really only 3 numbers involved in their permits. But if you're to look at, and I would like to review the thing that says land use permit fee proposal, page 1. So this is what I'm proposing in terms of residential and commercial. And a number of the items have been consolidated on the left so that electric, plumbing, solar are together. There's also a difference in terms of how we price that for those items, and also signs are a base fee and then a percent of the value of the work. So in other words, if you think about signs, there can be some signs that aren't very large, but could be a $30,000 sign. And the permit doesn't reflect necessarily the value of that sign that's going into that particular property, or what might need to be inspected because of it. So in terms of the commercial and residential, you can see the differences there. The square footage items are pretty much the same. The base fees vary. And then also, just to give you an example, in terms of, say, when there's a merge, a lot merge, or a subdivision plan, right now taxpayers are bearing the cost of doing those GIS changes, map changes, and that sort of thing, when it really is benefiting the property owner that's doing the subdivision, or the property owner that's doing the lot merger. So those costs ought to be borne by the person, or owner of the property that's benefiting from it. So in any event, on the back side of that page, as you look through the fees, on the back side of the page, I took some, let's see, I think there are 10 or 11 examples here, and these are all recent permits that were done. And you can see there are additions, alterations, signs, renovations, new construction, so on and so forth, both in commercial and residential. You can see the property addresses, what the general description of it was, the value of the work that's recorded on the permit, and then what we currently charged for those permits was a total of $1,787. Reconfigured in the proposed permit schedule, it brings it up to $7,188. Now, our last permit schedule was done in 2020, so pretty much 4 years ago. So I know you can't buy lumber today for what you bought 4 years ago. You can't buy just about anything today that you bought 4 years ago, and yet our fee structure has maintained stagnant. So this is something I think I would like the board to really take a look at, and maybe make some suggestions, or work together so that we can come up with a fee schedule that you think would be appropriate and help the taxpayers, because as these fees increase, it reduces the burden on the taxpayers for these properties that are doing the work.
Can we add 2 things to this list?
Yeah.
Renewal of certificate of occupancy. We also, for older buildings, and Pat, you know what it's called. It's not a certificate of occupancy. So if you have an older apartment building that never received a certificate of occupancy, and for whatever reason they need something similar.
It's a renewal of, I know what you mean.
Yeah, there's another, we
Is
call it something different.
it's
It's
a
really the
form,
same
right?
thing.
We'll find it.
But the
Okay.
building inspector has to go out
Right.
and inspect. So there's a cost to us, and it's not reflected here.
Okay. All right.
And the other one is temporary signs. The selectmen set the fee for somebody who wants a permit, a 90-day permit for a temporary sign. I think right now it's $30, Pat? And it really should be more.
Does it say 50?
For a temporary sign? I didn't see temporary sign on here.
Well, signs.
That's for a sign.
Yeah.
That's
All right. I can.
allowed. We have
that-
one. We allow temporary signs. You can have one for 90 days in a 1-year period, but it also requires your code enforcement officer to be aware of that permit.
Yep.
Watch
Yeah.
the date, make sure it's gone. If it's not, notify them it's got to go on. So we have a cost
Yeah.
that's far more than $30.
Right. Yeah, no, I can add those and I can send it back
Thank you.
out to the board.
Are there any other fees like that
I
along
don't
this
know.
line?
I've been
guys can
studying the
think of?
sign ordinance
I mean, because I
lately.
think if we're gonna do it, right, we should look at them all.
Yeah.
I can't think of any others besides those two, but I'll look tonight.
Well, and I went through and I looked at the permits that we've issued. I looked at our former schedules to see what's on those schedules.
Yeah.
And that's what we pulled those from. So,
Okay.
but in any case, if the board would take a look at that, and I think this will, accomplish a few things for us.
Thank you for doing that, because it's
Yeah.
long, you're right, it's long overdue.
All right, so,
Could be on the
yes.
agenda next week, because you have a date that you want to get by January 1st.
Week
Right.
after next.
yes, so we have a meeting on the
Yeah,
19th.
the next
And
meeting.
yeah, I'll send it out as soon as I find it tomorrow. I'll figure something out,
Okay.
update the
So
sheet
we
and
know
send it out.
that that's going to be the date we're going to
Yeah,
Move
I think
on
it'd
it.
be important.
I would like for you
Everything,
to, yeah.
Then we
Yeah.
can get it done by January 1st.
And like I said, take a look at those proposed things. And if you want to see something else,
I was
want me to
intrigued
run
by
it
the
through?
Exeter one.
Yeah, it's surprising. It's so
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
But you'll see that all the towns that I mentioned are in there, all our surrounding towns.
Yep.
So in any event, very good. We'll have that for you. The next item was regarding a warrant article for the elderly exemptions. So changing the exemption amount for the age categories and then also increasing the income limits. So in your packet, you have, so that's 3A on the back of my report. And you do have the 2023 from the Department of Revenue Administration, the exemptions and tax credits summary report. So it looks like this. It's kind of small print, but basically it shows where we are as compared to Samberton, New Hampton, Meredith, and all the other towns in Belknap County. You can see what their elderly exemptions are for the 3 age categories and also the single and married income limits. So the cost of increasing this by $30,000 in all 3 age categories, going up from for someone in the 65 to 74 age group, going from 50,000 to 80,000, and 75 to 79 age group going from 80,000 to 110,000, and then similarly in the elderly 80 plus age group going from 125 to 155,000. So those changes are quantifiable based on the census that we have currently of people that are qualifying for the elderly exemption. The cost to the taxpayer for those changes is a little less than $5,000 on an annual basis. The income limit changes, which Lauren and Pat and I had discussed this, and Lauren and I had discussed this last year, earlier in the year. She has favored, and I would agree with her, for married couples, increasing it from $34,000 to $40,000, and then increasing the single exemption or income limit from $26,000 to $28,000. And you can see in terms of the other towns, and this didn't change a great deal from 2022 to 2023. There were a few changes in some of the towns, but nothing major. And then the only other question is if the board were in agreement with those levels, that we look at changing the single asset limit and married asset limit. The issue that we have with those is it's nearly impossible to quantify what that's going to cost because we don't know what people they don't qualify today, but they might qualify if those income limits are raised. But if you look at the rest of the county, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are either at 40,000 or above. for the county. And then we're a little bit towards the middle high range on the single income limit, but that also seems to be an area that Lauren felt could be increased to that 28,000.
Tim, could you email us a copy of that DRA report you have?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the warrant article for the elderly exemption and income limits based on your recommendation, Tim, for 26,000 to 28,000, 34,000 to 40,000, and increasing it by 30,000.
I'll second that. Scanlon.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
I'd like a little more time to study it. This has just been brought before us 10 minutes ago.
Oh, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Maybe we haven't had actual figures in front of us. We've talked about it, but not actual figures.
Yeah, I want to think about it.
We'll table it till,
Can
Yeah,
we?
we can review it on the 19th.
yeah, when,
I would appreciate
when's
it.
the
Yeah, we
if
have
I
last
got
date we
caught up
have?
to speed on it.
I'm sorry?
When's the last date we have for that?
February
Uh,
2nd?
February?
4th.
Oh, yeah, no, the 4th. We've got some
Make sure
time,
we
but
keep it on
4th.
I always go by Groundhog Day.
I'm anticipating that the Budget Committee is going to hold a public hearing on January 15th. So I've talked with them preliminary, about that. We were looking at the 8th, but that's going to be a little too soon. So the 15th, we would need to have warrant articles to them by the 15th of January.
So
to
we're going to
review.
meet in what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Let's
Yeah,
do
I
19.
think, yeah, and I can forward off,
Oh, 2 weeks?
19.
2 weeks.
yeah, and I'll forward this off to the board tomorrow, and we can take a look at that. The other,
So we got to decide on the motion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Well,
What?
No, I just
We-
voted no.
Yeah.
we'll just,
Or you can
I'll
motion
withdraw
table
my
or
motion.
override, yeah.
It's
Or
easier
just
to
say
vote
no.
it down.
No,
We don't want to say no to the motion because then
Can bring it
or-
up again in 2 weeks.
yeah, but it goes into the history as saying no to a motion to elderly, and I won't do that. I'm sorry. I'll withdraw the motion. Thank you.
in the second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. In terms of the budget, I did increase revenue for the sale of town property, as we're going to be discussing in a minute, the town properties. And then also, because of the history that we're seeing in terms of the solid waste haulers, I'm trying to make sure that we're not over budgeting what we need. The revenue and expense should equal out. So we have to gross budget that. So we show both the revenue and the expense the same amount. And so I reduced those in this budget. And that has given us an overall, a little bit of a decrease from the last budget you had. So we're now looking at a 3.9% increase instead of the 4.4% I believe you had the last time. As I mentioned, the departmental budgets, or Joe mentioned earlier, they're going to be starting next week. And then the tentative budget hearing, I believe, is going to be the 15th of January. And so the question for the board is, when would you like to start voting on the budget?
Do we have any other things coming up other than the cookie contest the following week? I know we've passed some of incidental things over to the next meeting, but we don't have any meetings with people on the 19th, correct?
Not that I can recall. 19th.
We're not going to have like Eversource come back. We're not going to have like Eversource come back or anything, right, to finish that?
No,
Okay.
no.
So
So do you want to do it, you want to vote on the 19th then?
Actually, the only thing we may have is a personnel
Right,
matter.
that's
but
right.
Then there's, other than an hour for a cookie contest, then we should probably have a little bit of time to work on the budget, and we've already worked on most of the
We
budget.
haven't done outside agencies.
Right.
That's at least half an hour, 45 minutes.
Do you want to have a special night on that?
What does everybody else think?
Yeah, I think special,
A special night?
I think so.
just do that,
There's a
nothing
lot of
else.
information
Yep.
to think about and discussions about philosophy about what we're going to fund for outside agencies.
If we're gonna have a special night for the budget, let's make sure it's just the budget.
Nothing else.
None of those sneaky legislative Senate bill, Congress bill things where you sneak in, the lily pond,
Still working on the fiber
Yeah,
contracts.
yeah.
So
the
do you,
barn owls.
I reserve the right to bring that forward if we
Do you
save
want-
money.
do you want the 12th for the budget?
Next week?
Yeah. Just for the budget?
Everybody have
Or
paperwork.
the week
look ahead
after,
Ahead of time and we
whatever.
Yeah, I've got everything.
plug it.
That-
I'm good with the 12th.
Everybody good with the 12th?
I'll
Just
forget.
for the budget?
Just
Nope.
budget.
Just budget.
That's it.
Nada.
No,
And or fiber.
no,
No, not and or
If it
fiber.
saves us money.
Just for the budget.
no.
Saves us money.
If you want to bring something else in, you go ahead, but I promise you, I will vote no.
If it saves us money,
No matter what it
budget,
is.
bring it in the 19th.
well,
Yeah, the
We're getting a
12th
list already for the 19th.
well, if I'm
Might
coming
as
in
well.
to, if I'm coming in to
What's
talk
that?
to you, I'm coming in to talk to you.
What time?
6 o'clock,
When?
the
The
12th.
12th.
Oh, so
My
you,
birthday. It's on the guest honor, so
Oh.
I'm going to the birthday
Yeah.
party.
I don't blame you.
Don't
We
blame me.
should be pretty well done by 6.
107 years old. It's hard to believe, but here I am.
well, you
Engaged me.
it's the beard that tells it all about it.
You know, Joe. It's a surprise party. We're trying to get you down here.
All right, so the 12th it is
What do
at
we go do up there?
4:40, everybody for 4:45 or earlier?
45.
4:45 it is.
I'll be drunk,
I,
so I'm not coming. I'm just not coming on the 12th.
I could do,
Now-
4:15 is the earliest I can guarantee.
I'd have to bring a 4-year-old.
Being on the budget committee.
Well, that would help with the budget.
Oh, yeah, that'd quicken us up. He's pretty disruptive.
Bring him up and bring him in.
Although I can connect him to the Wi-Fi
so-
and he'll be happy.
So
He can listen to it.
tomorrow I can send out an email to the board and I will find those segments of the budget committee meetings that were on video where the people presented their packet to the budget committee. So at least you can, if you want to listen to those, you can click and hear what they had to say.
Yeah, could you please? That would be great.
So, that might be useful, to some degree. But in any case,
If
All
Joe
right.
can't be here on the 12th, can't we meet the week after the 19th?
that's
The day after
26th.
Christmas?
I don't turn into a pumpkin.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that.
I can do it.
I mean, it's not,
It's not Christmas
It's not-
Eve.
Chris, it's not a holiday.
Can we have it at Oliver's?
It-
At,
I was
It
just gonna
doesn't
say-
allow
After
for,
party.
it
For
doesn't allow
those
for
out
much
there that
time.
think that we have a life, we don't. Okay,
I'm just
I do
saying.
next
the
week.
26th
voting on
at
the
4,
budget, I think we all should be there.
the 26th at
Yeah.
4:45 instead of the 12th. All right.
Yeah,
So-
I'm good with that.
I might remember that day.
Just so that everybody knows that we do not have a life out there.
Can you send a reminder?
A reminder.
All right, and then lastly, so my item 5 was trying to answer in some degree what Selectman Adams had emailed in terms of, could we, have some things put together. And I'll start working on a FAQ with Scott that will maybe hopefully answer, 80% of the questions. I will point out that 76% of the taxes raised were the town and school, which accounted for 14 cents increase from year to year on our tax rate, 14 cents. The county and fire accounted for 61 cents on our tax rate year to year, the increase. So that's in that you can take a look at. It was a 26.2% increase, 26.8% increase on fire and a 21.2% increase on county. So it is important that people pay attention to the other components that this select board has no control over.
Right.
As taxpayers, it's all of us that need to attend these meetings. So other than that, I won't belabor the rest of it there. And unless you have any questions for me, that's all I have.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, old business town properties.
Okay. I have a document in front of me. It's the tax deed and interest and penalty statement on the High Street property. It'll give you basically what we've got invested in that. And I think at this point in time, the reason for that is because the board has expressed my seeking a butter's interest in that property. I will pass this out to you, and you can check the bottom line. I think it leaves us a couple of options. One is it probably leaves several options, but the options would be that if you want me to reach out again to the butters, excuse me, and present them with a number, and or as Tim and I have discussed, and we will be discussing on 6 other properties that Selectman Dawson asked me to look into, which is currently underway, to see if those properties were buildable and really what their value is and that stuff. And should we be putting this and all of that before the taxpayers to see how we dispose of it, and or you folks make that decision. But I will pass out this tax deed interest and penalty statement for the High Street property so you can see what we have invested in it.
How long have we owned High Street?
Sorry.
So, yes, you had asked me that the other day. So 10 years will be June 25th of 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So one thing to keep in mind as you look through that report, the interest rates changed at different times over the years. So this represents all of the tax bills and how they, the per diem rate and the number of days, adding up all the interest, principal, and then penalties.
Under amount of penalty, is that also interest? Is that just penalty?
Are you talking about the?
Under, it says
At the-
amount of penalty unless primary resident.
Yes, that is penalty only.
Penalty only, okay.
I don't see so I see on the back, doesn't say page 2, but I'm calling it the back. Auction advertising, minimum fee for auction per contract. And I only see that one auction event. There was a first auction event.
Yeah, it's there, the 2014
2014.
auction
right.
and then the 2024 auction expense. The 2014 auction was split with another property, so that was the cost for this property.
I don't see where that's written. Am I just missing it?
Under other costs at the end, after all the alternating color lines.
Yeah, down here, Catherine, on the
Above the penalty section.
very bottom. Other costs.
I trust you that it's there,
I don't see it.
but I don't see it.
It says incidental costs.
Oh, incidental costs?
Maybe I should take my glasses off.
Actually, yeah, I've got.
Oh, well, yeah, it says incidental costs, auction advertising.
That's not the.
And so I'm looking
That's not the right
for
one.
Right,
two
this
of
is the
them.
correct one.
Yeah, let me make a copy of this.
Yeah, how did that?
What's the total
This is
amount?
the correct one.
I don't have that.
Oh, that was the first one.
Oh, all right, so it wasn't me.
Amy,
I was gonna say, I don't see
You're
that.
right. You're right.
So we all
Let me
have
make
the
some-
wrong
Let me
one?
make some copies of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all got the wrong one.
Yeah, it's about $1,000 difference.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
$1,000,
Okay.
$1,000.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
that-
No,
That
I'm-
cost us.
Alright. So Joe stuck his, yeah, we'll take Joe's too. 'cause
If you
he's-
wait until June, we can sell it for its market value.
They gotta give us an update.
It should say, yeah.
Yes. We've done it for 10 years.
Oh,
Didn't know that?
hopefully you'll get
No,
more
after
for
10
it than
years.
that.
I hope so.
We've owned it for 10 years. It's
The
got something to
assessor
do
says
with-
it's worth.
It doesn't make any sense.
Of course.
I'm positive. Yes, we can make sure. It has to do with. Oh, it's public. It's in the RSA.
Crazy.
I think it's an
Technically, my
80.
taxes went down. I was one of the
Is it
few,
80?
don't know why.
Aren't the RSAs that have to do with tax deeding and whatnot, is that the
Isn't that
80?
80,
No.
80.
Yeah,
Isn't that
80.
insane?
Yeah.
Like, you could go right now.
But the houses around me are selling up in that neighborhood and more.
They are.
It's a savings account. Eventually I'll sell it and live happily ever after.
Yep.
Or be dead, either way.
Well, as long as things don't tank. As long as the market doesn't.
Real estate has never really gone down, ever since I was a kid. Invest in land, there's only so much of it, and it holds its value and goes up to 308,000.
Certainly held its value in the last 5 years.
So
Yep,
if this is sold.
sure have.
Craziness.
Oh, yeah, that's better. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, right now?
If we wait till after June of next year.
Ah.
Oh, yeah, so it was a difference for about 1,000.
Oh, that's right, it was, wasn't it? Thank you.
Really? Huh. We don't have to let the mortgage holder know.
Fires after 2 years.
All I want is my tax money, quite frankly.
It's best for the taxpayers and the resident.
Yeah. It all
All
goes-
right,
So that's probably a little more clear to the board.
Mhm.
That includes the previous auction. Like Tim said, it's a split cost.
Okay.
thank you.
Interesting to see in 10 years, those from 14 to 24, those costs didn't, well, the advertising cost went up a couple $100, but the minimum fee for the auction is right on track if the other property was
Well,
charged
Yeah,
1,000.
So the auctioneer contract works that the buyer would pay a percentage. This is just in the event the auction isn't successful.
Okay.
And that first 2014 auction, as you said, it was split with a Beach Street property
Right.
back then.
Makes sense.
Was that credited into here, the money that we received as a deposit?
No.
That goes to the general fund.
Because the property was not sold.
Yeah, I didn't know if it becomes a credit on the property. Or towards taxes. It doesn't reduce the amount of.
That's correct.
Tim, how did we process prior auctions or sales, either one? Did we include interest, accrued interest, or did we abate the interest?
We
Or
charged the
both?
interest. We did
Okay.
charge the interest, and we charged the penalties, I think, in all but one instance. I'd have to go back and research it. And in one case where it was a significant amount of money that the property sold for, it was there was an interpleader through the court where we had to return the money to the court, and the court figured out who had to be paid. But this is approaching a 10-year point in 2025, whereas this last summer, an HMA, one of the attorneys, stated that there is some case law that once a deeded property is in possession of the town for over 10 years, it becomes any proceeds that would be received over and above the tax amount could be kept by the community. But there were some technicalities with that would have to be looked into more so.
Okay.
It's not spelled out in RSA 80
Right.
to that degree.
No, it's not. It's not.
No.
It's case law.
It's case law, right?
Interesting.
Okay, so what do we want? What do we want? Do we need to take an action on this? Is that what you're looking for us tonight? Or do you want us to just look at this and say, ooh, and go for another week?
Well, we have other properties.
We do have, we're working on other properties,
Okay.
but specific to this one, I did reach out at the board's request and speak to the abutters who in fact share an interest. I have not shared this amount with them yet. But my question to the board is, would you like me to reach out to the abutters again and explain what the costs are involved here, and would these folks be interested? And or the other option, as Tim and I have discussed, is that with the 6 properties that Selectman Dawson asked me to look into and get some information, do we compile all of that and go to town meeting and request from the taxpayers what they'd like us to do with 7 or 6 properties? So I guess,
We already have permission to sell from town meeting. We don't
Right.
have to go
Right.
to
Right.
town meeting.
We
so
don't need to go to
so-
town meeting.
would the board like me to reach out to the abutters here and see if they're interested in that amount?
What would the
think-
term of the sales be? You know, they expressed that they wanted to keep it as open as a park, so at that rate, there should be conveyance on it that it would be conservation or open land.
Right.
Because if they're going to buy it at that rate and then turn around and sell it at full market value of $87,000, we just did a disservice
Right. No,
because we had auctioned off before.
yeah, and I did speak to Cindy, or one of the abutters, and she made it clear to me that there would be she would ask for a conservation easement.
Would save on their taxes.
Yeah, and they had no interest in doing other than protect their own property with this. And she was speaking for the other abutter, who I have not spoke to directly, but she did make it clear that they were both in agreement what they wanted to do with this. And they are interested.
Well, I think that if we're
Yeah.
going to do that, I, for one, would like to see it a condition of the sale.
Okay,
In other words,
I can relay that.
Sell it for that amount.
they,
If we sell it for the full amount or
Right.
whatever, then no.
Just anticipating that they would make a counter offer. Is that something the board would be interested in? Okay,
I'm not.
okay,
it's
Nope.
worth more than.
okay.
Yeah, because after June, I forget the date, after June of next year, it
Right.
goes to fair
June
market
25th.
value, which is at this
Right.
time 87,000,
Right.
and it could be 90 or 100,000 at that point.
Right.
So you're yes with the condition.
With condition.
You're yes with the condition.
No, I want to wait till June.
You what?
I want to wait till June
And auction it off at the
and
87.
auction it off at full
Good.
market rate.
We wouldn't have to auction it, we'd just put it up for sale.
Whatever
All
it
right.
is, I would rather do that.
So
The
not,
difference between 37,000 plus and 87,000
50,000.
ish.
so you're a no.
I'm a no.
Eric,
Mhm.
Because otherwise, you know me, I want to turn that into money. But we could get more money in June, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. I agree with Joe.
we already said 2 weeks ago to offer it to her.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
I think
I-
that's
I want
before
to
they
get
knew,
market value.
I think that's
didn't know
before we
the
knew
10
about
year.
the 10-year thing.
I just found out
Mhm.
about that.
Okay.
It was worth.
Yeah, that's not etched in stone,
Let's
John.
find out more about that, but
Yeah.
let's
Um,
We just
find out about the other properties. If
Yeah.
we have more that we can sell, or, we own them all, we don't have to auction them, we just need to sell them.
Correct.
Can I ask a question?
Then we could just do one real estate.
Didn't we try to
transaction.
auction this piece off?
Yes, we
Already?
did. And they
And-
were the third bidder,
And they were the third bidder.
Correct.
and we didn't go to the third bidder.
And what was the price at that third bid?
25.
25.
It wasn't enough to cover what we owed or what was
Right.
owed us.
Okay.
So I was
Okay.
definitely a no. We'll hold on to it till we can get our money.
Okay. All right, then I'm no.
Well, at the time, it was enough to, at the time, 10 years ago,
Correct,
it
it
was
was.
enough to
Yep.
cover our expenses, Joe.
The third bid wasn't. That's why we said no.
The third bid 10
Watch
years
one.
ago?
Right. That's why we said no.
There wasn't enough money to cover the nut, and so I voted no.
Right.
I don't remember it. I have a question. John, you just made a statement that a conservation easement saves money on your taxes. Is that so?
Mhm.
It does?
Because it's no longer a buildable lot.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
It's like putting it in current use.
The idea is if somebody buys this at this market rate that is $50,000 less than the assessed value,
Yeah,
and then they go and say tomorrow, I'm going to put it on the market, and I mean, a lot of times you can get more than this. They could put it on the market for 90,000, and boom,
Oh, well.
$50,000,
I'm not-
$60,000 profit for, I mean,
I'm
I
not
buy it for
asking
that.
about these people. I'm asking about the conservation easement particularly. That's what I'm curious
Yeah.
about. These people already agreed. They agreed 10 years ago. They agreed
Yes, they
they
did.
now
never
that
came up
they
with the
would
money
come
yet,
up
and
with
we've
the
been asking.
conservation.
I know.
But I was curious about that statement that you made,
Yeah.
and I was very curious about that.
Conservation
Can
easement.
you
Somebody
look
had
into the 10-year
asked me
thing?
about it the other day,
Yes,
and I didn't.
yes, we
Use-
will. I'll
current use on it,
check with Laura.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So we have 3.
No.
You were a no too, or you were?
I wanted to wait and find out more about the 10-year thing and the other properties.
Yeah, we're gonna
Right
wait.
now, we're a no.
Yeah, we're gonna wait. Okay, all right,
The whole
so
package.
next on our
Yeah.
list,
Yeah.
what's next?
The only other thing I wanted to make sure Selectman Dawson understood was I have asked Chuck Bodine, our building inspector, to look at the 6 lots that you sent to me. And he's actually going to physically look at them, make sure that, you know, if it can fit a septic, setbacks, all of that stuff to give me an idea, so that we can put it together. If it's marketable stuff at town meeting, we can get a decision to
Yeah.
do whatever we
And the
want.
other part of that is if he looks at the placement of the house,
Right,
and let's say the house is 20 feet from the present line,
right,
if they buy that and now they've got an extra 50 feet, now they can add a garage onto the house.
correct.
So could it increase the value
Of the
and buildability on the other lot?
lots, right, right. Yep,
Good point.
Yeah.
yeah, very good point.
Then,
Yep,
you know, they can buy it cheap, and now they can put that garage on they always
Sure.
wanted without.
yep, a lot line adjustment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
buying the lot.
yeah.
yep. So I'll
Simmons
I'll
Court.
report
Thank you,
further
Scott,
as
for
I get that
joining.
information.
Simmons Court.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
All right, is there any more business to come before us in a public meeting? Go ahead, Greg.
Greg DeVolder, 161 School Street. I've been with you for every meeting except one this year, and it's been quite a trip. But one observation I've made over the last year is the selectmen's reports. To me, a report is, this is what the budget committee's doing. This is what this committee's doing. I've been asked to go out and take a look at something, and here I'm coming back to you, to let you know what's going on. At times, it feels like the reports are used rather than an agenda. And I think it could be more efficient for the board. I know what our agenda is usually done Tuesday before the meeting. And there's 2 weeks there. So there's a full week after the last meeting that you may get a complaint or something, and you're holding that typically in the pocket until you come to the meeting and bring it up. Whereas if you went to Scott, he could research it. And I've seen this over the course of the year with all of our town administrators I'll get back to you on that. I'll get back to you on that. I'll have a look. And it just seems like if we're not using that as a means to have something to say or bring it up, and granted, things come in late and you have to do it that way, but it just seems like it'd be more efficient to get that in front of somebody, to do the legwork. You know, signs was one of those things where we could have had the ordinances out for everybody to look at. You would have saved some time on some of these decisions just by doing things a little bit more efficiently. And that's just an observation that I've seen. As well as from time to time, I do think it's an opportunity to roll a hand grenade down the desk sometimes. And I think that's also could maybe help too. So just my observation. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we do appreciate you being here, Greg.
Yes.
We love your stories. Thank you.
Nothing else for me, Madam Chair.
And there's nobody online. So at this time, I will say goodnight, Greg. And I'll say the time being 7:18, I'll make a motion to move into non-public per RSA 91A:3, 2B, and RSA 91A:2C.
Thanks, Greg.
The hiring of any person as a public employee, and C, reputation matters which discussed in public would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. Unless person requests an open meeting, this exemption shall extend to include any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or any levy if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant. So here's Catherine Dawson seconded, in case you didn't hear Sue. Can't hear you. Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Dawson, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Adams, yes.
Constantino, yes.
This conference will now be recorded.
Like to seal the minutes of the December 5th, 2024, because the reasons justifying the need for the non-public session still remain permanently.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
What
Aye.
under discussion? I had a
Oh,
question.
discussion? All right.
You
Back
can
up.
still,
Did you, so you're asking to seal these permanently, but did we have any personnel issues in this?
Yes.
Yeah, but we put them on hold and we're gonna bring them back and,
That's right. So, but I mean, so until the matter's resolved, wouldn't that be more appropriate? Because once we resolve that, then they can be public.
Portions.
we can
Portions.
still vote to make them public at any time we want.
Even if they're permanently
Okay.
sealed?
Sure.
yeah,
Right,
Okay.
yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah.
I'd just like to be a little.
So
neater.
next week we can release them because we've already made the decision.
Portions of
Right.
that.
Okay,
Let's not forget.
all right.
Week.
You remind us?
Yes, well, I won't remind you. I'll forget. I forgot what I had for breakfast this morning.
We have a whole list of stuff going on.
Joseph, do you have any more business to come before us?
Just this one thing.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.